Chullin Daf Samachei. So we're going to finish up the halachas regarding birds, kashrus of birds, and we're going to go into the halachas of grasshoppers. But first, there's a halacha about a bird that's a doires. According to Rashi, in the Mishnah, doires means he eats his food with his hands. According to Rashi later on, it means that he sits on his food while he eats it. A bird like that is completely treif. Now, if a person has a bird in front of him and he's not familiar with peres and ozniya, and this bird has all four simanim, it's completely kosher. What are the four simanim again? It has an extra finger, it has a crop, it has a gizzard that peels easily, and it's not a doires, kosher. Now there's a very interesting trick that you can do to see if a bird is a doires or treif. That is, you put a bird on a string. If he splits his claws, two in the front and two in the back, that means he's a doires. The shach says that's a siman, that means that the bird is automatically treif. In fact, there's a controversy a number of years ago in America because the leghorn chicken, which produces most of the eggs in America, they put him on a string, and lo and behold, he put two claws in the front and two claws in the back, and that created a great controversy. Some say that when there's no people around, he doesn't do it like that. At any rate, that was the controversy. Rav Shimon ben Elazar says that any bird that could grab its prey out of the air and eat it while it's flying is a doires, is treif, and it is asur to eat. If a bird that is kosher hangs out with birds that are not kosher, and it looks exactly like those birds, then lekula alma, that bird is treif. If the bird doesn't look anything like the other birds that he hangs out with that are treif, then lekula alma, it's kosher. Now, there's a famous saying in Hebrew, lo lechinam halach hazarzir etzel haorev. In other words, if this guy's hanging out with bad people, he's probably bad himself. The oirev, which is treif, the zarzer, which has all the siman kashrus, hangs out with the oirev. Says Rabbi Eliezer, since the Torah says by oirev leminoi, so even though he doesn't look anything like the crow, nevertheless he's treif. Now we're going to go into the hilchos chagovim, grasshoppers. The four simanim of the grasshopper are that it has four legs, four wings. The wings cover most of its body, and it has two jumper legs that propel him into the air. What does it mean that his wings cover most of his body? Machlokes. One manama holds that it covers most of the length of his body. The other manama says it covers most of the circumference of his body. Comes Rav Papa, like Rav Papa does 10 times in Shas, and he says, let's take both of the shittas and combine them and say that you have to have choifa roiv gufay and choifa the circumference of the body. Now, some people say that since Rav Papa said this 10 times, that's why he was zoichet to have the 10 sons that we say every siyum, Rami Rav Papa, Chami Rav Papa, Nachman Rav Papa, Sur Rav Papa, etc. Now, if you search, you'll see that Rav Papa only said this 9 times in Shas. But some want to say that the Rikveger says that the machlokes in brachas benegeh to Birkas HaTorah, that's also Rav Papa, you have to be goyers Rav Papa, so then in fact you have 10. The famous one that we say every day in Ashiyatzar, we say Roife Chol Basar, which is the sheet of Shmuel, Umafli Lasois is the sheet of Rav Sheshes, and Rav Papa combines the two, and that's why we say both. Now, the Torah describes 4 types of Chagavim by name. And we'll go into this very briefly. There's a concept called Klal U'Prat U'Klal. When the Torah says something, generalizes it, for instance, it says you could eat all Chagavim, and then the Torah says something very specific, only these 4. So that's Klal U'Prat. Then Ein L'chal Mashav Prat, so the Prat is very specific. If it's reverse, for instance, if the Torah would have said the 4 names of the Chagavim, and then the Torah would have said you could eat all Chagavim that have jumpers, that would be very different. Then it would be more generalized. What happens when the Torah says Klal, Prat, Uklal? On the one hand, you have a Klal U'Prat, you have a generalization specification. On the other hand, you have a Prat Uklal, you have a specification and then a generalization. So Rabbi Shmuel holds that it's more generalized. You take the Prat, you make it more generalized. What does that have to do with our sugya? The Tanna Kama says, since it says Arba, Solam, Chargal, and Chagav, it comes to include one other species that's similar to the Arba, Solam, Chargal, Chagav. For instance, the Arba comes to include Tziporis, Carmen. Now, the Gemara in Shabbos says that this Tziporis has a very special thing to it. If you take this Tziporis and you cut it in half, the Gemara in Shabbos Tzadik Amud Beis says, take one half, put it on your left arm, and then learn as much as you can. And then, if you eat the other half, you'll remember all your learning. If you don't eat the other half, that can be very dangerous. You'll forget everything. Psalm comes to include Yochanan Yerushalmi, Chagel comes to include Aritzuvia, Chagel comes to include Rezvanis. The Be'er Yishmael say, well, here you have a situation of klal, pratu klal, where we have to be marbe more. Since the Torah says lemineu 4 times, lemineu 4 times. So each one of those grasshoppers comes to include something special. Arba comes to include, since Arba himself is hairy, comes to include all grasshoppers that are hairy. I apologize about this picture right over here. This is the only picture I was able to find that looked semi-hairy. In fact, to me, it looked like he just came out of a hair transplant surgery, but don't mind it. If you have the appetite, mutter to eat. The other grasshopper is a salam. Salam is bald, and that comes to include, klal u'prat klal, comes to include all grasshoppers. We have 800 types of grasshoppers, all the bald ones you can eat, and all the ones with hair you can eat. What do you do with chargol? Chargol comes to include any grasshopper that has a tail. Chagov. The word chagov means grasshopper, but it's also a type of grasshopper, and it comes to exclude a cricket. Cricket has all the simanim of a grasshopper. In fact, looks similar to a grasshopper. It has the 4 wings, 4 feet, the 2 jumpers, and its wings cover most of its body. Nevertheless, you're not allowed to eat it because it's not called a grasshopper, it's called a cricket. And the klal u'prat comes to bimarba, other things, like we'll see. Now, the Gemara says that salam, the middle one, the Torah shouldn't have said it at all. There's no reason why the Torah said it. Anything that the salam has, it does not have a tail, but it does have a bald head. So the bald head you can learn out from chargol, and that it doesn't have a tail you can learn out from arba. So why in the world did the Torah tell us salam? The reason why the Torah told us salam, because if you can't learn something for itself, and the word is extra, you always take that word and you learn it for other things. And what we learn from there is that a salam, not a salam, but any other grasshopper that has an elongated head is kosher, and you're allowed to eat it. Have a wonderful day.